Let's see. I think we are live. Yes, we're up and live. Hello, everyone. Let me change my screen here. Hello, everyone, and welcome. If you can hear me well, as always, let me know. If you can't, how the volume is. I will turn it up a little bit more than last time. Let me know how you if you're hearing that. Hey, we got Confed Yank and Tom Neal. We'll be seeing you very soon, Tom. Tom is going to be out here very soon. Good to see you all. Steve Kroll says audio good, could be louder. Okay, I will turn it up. It's as high as it goes right now, and I will move my mic, and I'll try and speak right into the mic. Sounds good? Great. So we got some people on, some names that I do not recognize, at least from the Ramblestream, including Steve and Keith Stella and Sirius Blatt from the UK. Awesome. Welcome. So glad you could join us on the Ramblestream this evening. I guess I'll just go ahead and get started. I actually hit the go live button a minute before I was ready for it. I was messing with my settings and, hey, hello everyone. That's okay. It's a Ramblestream, so get used to it. But officially, hello everyone. Welcome on this 9th day of October to episode 16 of the Janus Motorcycles Ramblestream with me, Richard Worsham, your rambling host. And during this episode, as always, we will be kind of just trying to have a conversation. I really look forward to an active interchange. One of the things I brought up, I think it was either last Ramblestream or the Ramblestream before, was the fact that it's a really good thing this isn't really popular. Because otherwise I wouldn't be able to answer all or attempt to answer all the comments or bring them up. So it's really nice to see that. And boy, our our number of viewers is really high right now. This is great. If you look up, let's see if I can point out right there. I found this little widget that tells you how many people are viewing. And we've got 32 people viewing right now. And we are only a couple of seven minutes in. So this is really great. I hope I can keep everyone's attention. We'll see. But yeah, it's nice that it's not so popular that we have hundreds of people on. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to get to all the comments. And that's what this is all about. So speaking of, Confed Yank says, hold on, start up a Halcyon 250 for audio check. Well, actually could. Actually, it would be a 450. It's on the stand over there. Well, I want to not breathe exhaust fumes, at least right now. Gary says, hello from East Lansing. Hello, as always, Gary. Good to see you. As he always says, he has Halcyon 250, number 79, Halcyon 450, number 3, and Phoenix 250, number 79. Quite the collection going on there. Live an Artful Life, also, a.k.a. Tom Neal, says, sound is great now. Yeah, as I was kind of mentioning there, Tom is a repeat customer, shall we say, and he has a very special build on the stand right now. And he's coming out tomorrow to check that out and hang out with the team. And he's really got some cool things up his sleeve, which means that we do too. And we'll be revealing those very soon with Tom. We're very, very excited about it. Let's see. We got Steve says, new to the Ramblestream. Awesome. Welcome. Mark Stevens says, greetings from Michigan. Mark McGee says, from Anacortes, pale ale tonight sounds good. Yes. I should mention, yes, thank you for reminding me there, Mark. One of the things that I try and remember to do is to say, tell us what you're drinking. So we call it it would be a drink check. And I actually have something interesting this time. As I mentioned the last Ramblestream, Last week we did not have one because Grant, Jordan, and I were all up in Duluth, Minnesota. And so I brought back Castle Cream Ale. Actually, this is a Grant selection from Castle Danger Brewery, which is in Two Harbors, Minnesota, which is up the coast from Duluth on Lake Superior. I'll talk a little bit about that trip in a minute, but first, not bad. I'm not a big cream ale fan myself, but it's pretty good. Cheers to a good Ramblestream. Let's get through some more comments here. Jeff Carone, hello yet again from Tampa, Florida. Good to see you, Jeff. Jim Winters, hello from Indiana Dunes. Good to see you too, Jim. Jeep Man Dan, as always, ahoy. Good to see you. Michael Trueblood, hello from Pittsburgh, the famous Gross on Ice. Nice. Steve Kroll says Sam and Jack. Nice. Joe Davis says hello from Perkasie, Pennsylvania. Charles Selman. Man, we got a lot of people. 37 people on right now. People I haven't seen before, too. Greetings from San Francisco. Welcome. B. Douglas Bryan. Hey, Brent. Hello from Ohio. Jackie O's Java the Stout. Good to see you, Brent. Craig is on. Hi, everyone. I'm drinking some coffee. Good for you. I sometimes need to do that in the evening as well. Sometimes not. Grant says, I see so many owner names out there. My comment stream is going crazy here. It's actually glitching. This is great. So many owners' names out there. Shout out your model and number. Yeah, that's a great thing. Thank you, Gary, for starting that. If you have a Janus, which I expect a lot of you probably do, call out your model and number of your bike. I know you're all going to be, well, not everyone, but under 1,000. There will probably be a couple of you that if you have one on an order. Confed Yank says 450 certainly works on the sound check. Foxy, good to see you on. Howdy. Kraken Black Spice Rum in my glass today. Great. Looking forward to having you down, Foxy, soon. We'd love to, speaking to your email, do another video with you. Kid Van Yank says, yeah, that wouldn't bode well for your health. You need better ventilation. Yeah. Well, we actually do have a vent system. That thing right there, I don't know if you can see it in the low light, is a vent system that we can turn on for the exhaust. So I'm giving away I shouldn't have said that. Andy, hello from Allendale, Michigan. Hello, other Felix brother. Good to see you on too. Number 120, he has 450, number 120. Dave Bowen says, welcome back, Richard. Thanks. Good to see you. Good to be back after a week off. G-Man Dan says Halcyon 450 number 121. So if you'll notice, he and his brother have 120 and 121. Mark McGee, JM, that would be a Halcyon 250 number 997, a very recent build. Mark Herschel, new from Jackson, California. Welcome. This is great. Tells you what happens when you actually put out an email beforehand. I'm assuming maybe some of you all got the email blast. Haggis McDougall from Down Under and new to the stream also. Wow, we have people from all over the world. If you're really from Down Under, that would be amazing. And what time is it? Charles Selman, Griffin number 124, Confed Yank hydration check. Yes. Mark Stevens, Remy Martin. Great. Dave Bowen, 450 number 41. Yes. A beautiful one too. Keith Stella, newbie here from North Carolina. Welcome. Mark Stevens, Remy Martin. Mark Stevens, Remy Martin. Okay. I got it. Kid Fed Yank says I should try some local breweries. Yep. Sirius Blatt says cheers. Cheers to the UK. Bob Mead says hello from St. Pete, Florida. Halcyon 181. Wonderful. Mark Stevens, Remy. Yep, that's again. William Joe Rainey. Keep making those awesome looking bikes just like you are. Thank you very much, sir. Jim Winters says Halcyon 450 number 150 and Phoenix number 78. Carson Branham. Good evening from near the left coast of Oregon Territory. Wow, fantastic. I will be headed out that way. Well, starting at the end of this week, going through Nevada and Oregon, making some deliveries among other activities out there. Craig Hamburger, 450 Halcyon 204 from Memphis, Tennessee. And Sirius Blatt says, there is space in my garage for a 450 when you find a route into the UK. Yep, that would be great. We'd love to do that. Haggis says, yep, Melbourne, Victoria, and it's Tuesday at 10:09 a.m. Well, tell us, is it going to be a good day? Carson says, the good thing is we know tomorrow we'll get here. We'll get here. Yes, it's true. So absolutely. Welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for joining in. We have 44 people on the stream right now. I think that's a record. Thank you all. And I have to do my duty here and say, if you haven't already, consider liking the video. It actually will help out, and more people will get to see it. So I hope we'll do a good job doing it this evening. Actually, tonight we have a pretty good program, I think. We're actually going to get back to doing some design work, and we're actually going to revisit a project we did a Ramblestream on months ago, and we're going to do a second revision on it and update it. All right. Steve Crowell says, no Janus yet, but who knows? 450 would likely be my choice. Well, it wouldn't be a bad one. Steve. M says, greetings from Napa, California. Just brought a Griffin. Signed paperwork today. Well, sir, congratulations. Well done. Well done. The Griffins are going really hot right now. We've sold quite a few. People like them. Carson Branham says, the road from Conestoga to Williams will never be the same. Confetti Yank says, still eyeing a local listing as I'm still trying to save up. Yep, I know you are. So I wish you luck in your quest. George Fitzsimmons coming in from Hampton, New Jersey. Welcome. Okay, let's get started. As always, we're going to get started with a poem. This one's a little, not too long. It's one of my favorites, and I think it speaks to someone who kind of is maybe a rambler through life. And it's one of my favorites. We will eventually, as we continue to do these ramble streams, get into some other poetry, but this is not going to be a Richard Wilbur like we always do, or like I often recite, but it is one that we have a poet that we visited before by the name of Robert Frost. And this is one of my favorite Frost poems ever. And I think, as ramblers we'll appreciate it. The title of the poem is The Star Splitter by Robert Frost. You know, Orion always comes up sideways, throwing a leg up over our fence of mountains and rising on his hands. He looks in on me, busy outdoors by lantern light, with something I should have done by daylight, and indeed, after the ground is frozen, I should have done before it froze. And a gust flings a handful of waste leaves at my smoky lantern chimney to make fun of my way of doing things, or else fun of Orion's having caught me. Has a man, I should like to ask, no rights these forces are obligated to pay respect to? So Brad McLaughlin mingled reckless talk of heavenly stars with hugger-mugger farming, till having failed at hugger-mugger farming, he burned his house down for the fire insurance and spent the proceeds on a telescope to satisfy a lifelong curiosity about our place among the infinities. What do you want with one of those blame things? I asked him well beforehand. Don't you get one? Don't call it blamed. There isn't anything more blameless in the sense of being less a weapon in our human fight, he said. I'll have one if I sell my farm to buy it. There where he moved the rocks to plow the ground and plowed between the rocks he couldn't move, few farms changed hands. So, rather than spend years trying to sell his farm and then not selling, he burned his house down for the fire insurance and bought the telescope with what it came to. He had been heard to say by several, the best thing we're we're put here for is to see. The strongest thing that's given us to see with is a telescope. Someone in every town, seems to me, owes it to the town to keep one. In Littleton, it may as well be me. After such loose talk, it was no surprise when he did what he did and burned his house down. Mean laughter went about the town that day to let him know we weren't the least imposed on, and he could wait. We'd see him tomorrow. But the first thing next morning we reflected, if one by one we counted people out for the least sin, it wouldn't take us long to get so we had no one left to live with. For to be social is to be forgiving. Our thief, the one who does our stealing from us, we don't cut off from coming to church suppers, but what we miss we go to him and ask for. He promptly gives it back, that is, if still uneaten, unworn out, or undisposed of. It wouldn't do to be too hard on Brad about his telescope. Beyond the age of being given one for Christmas gift, he had to take the best way he knew how to find himself in one. Well, all we said was, he took a strange thing to be roguish over. Some sympathy was wasted on the house, a good old-timer dating back along, but a house isn't sentient. The house didn't feel anything, and if it did, why not regard it as a sacrifice? An old-fashioned sacrifice by fire, instead of a new-fashioned one at auction. Out of a house, and so out of a farm, at one stroke of a match, Brad had to turn to earn a living on the Concord Railroad, as under-ticket agent at a station, where his job, when he wasn't selling tickets, was setting out up track and down, not plants, as on a farm, but planets, evening stars, that varied in their hue from red to green. He got a good glass for $600. His new job gave him leisure for stargazing. Often he bid me come and have a look up the brass barrel, velvet black inside, at a star quaking in the other end. I recollect a night of broken clouds, and underfoot snow melted down to ice, and melting further in the wind to mud. Bradford and I had out the telescope. We spread our 2 legs, as it spread its 3, pointed our thoughts the way we pointed it, and standing at our leisure till the day broke, said some of the best things we ever said. That telescope was christened the Star Splitter, because it didn't do a thing but split a star in 2 or 3 the way you split a globule of quicksilver in your hand with one stroke of your finger in the middle. It's a star splitter if there ever was one, and ought to do some good if splitting stars is a thing to be compared with splitting wood. We've looked and looked, but after all, where are we? Do we know any better where we are, and how it stands between the night tonight and a man with a smoky lantern chimney? How different from the way it ever stood? That's a good one. I like Brad McLaughlin and his insurance money. Okay, let's go back and look at some comments real quick. The comments are going crazy here. Let's see. Time Man, 450 number 113 here, Burns Harbor, Indiana. Confed-Yank says, I mean, if you can't buy a used one, I'll be forced to buy a new one. It's true. Could do worse. George Fitzsimmons says, I own 2 Halcyon 450s, number 15 and number 107. Dang, that's great. Scott Spence, Richard, hey Scott, good to see you. Scott's a 450 owner too. And a 250, is that right? Tom says, roses are red, Halcyons are too, and they're also green, cream, and blue. That's true. David Hyde, thinking of you as I change the oil on number 387. Awesome. Scott says 450 number 178 and 250 number 212 here. Yep, thought so. Carson says, how do you like the 250? Scott, you can. Oh, and y'all are going to answer. Scott says the 250 is great, but my bottom sure enjoys the comfort of the 450's rear suspension. Yeah, I got a chance to ride the 250 and 450 all last week. Actually, put quite a few miles on a 450 as well. And boy, it's not just the suspension; it's that seat is a really plush. The Sargent seat on the 450 is pretty plush. Mind you, I don't mind the 250 seat either, but it's a different experience on the 450. Holly Bransner, Toledo, Ohio here. Good to see you, Holly. Number 77 and 78. That's right. Drinking Boolies. Time Man says, too cool. Robert Frost and my favorite bike. Thanks, Richard. Great. I'm glad you like it. Carson says, I can see a 250 with the knobby tires in my future. I live at the end of a gravel road. Nice. It's a good look, too. M says, stay frosty. Will do. Tom says, one more to 50. That's right. Well, maybe we're down some. Usually when I read a poem, the viewer count goes down. Let's see. Jeff Caron, sound of snapping fingers. Great. Sirius says, damn, that was awesome. Just need a campfire to sit around. Great. I'm glad you appreciate it. Good. A good Yankee poem there. Speaking of, Confetti Yank says, have you started reading Kino's Journey yet? I have not. I need to, though. Thank you again for the reminder. Sly C71 says, I'm trying to convince my Himalayan to dress up like a Halcyon for Halloween. Boy, that your Royal Enfield has a good heritage of its own, though. It doesn't have to pretend to be anything else. Okay. It is already, 7:20. So we're going to go ahead and get started on a little design here, and we can intersperse it with some more conversation. As I always, just to reiterate, we're going to, throughout this, post up your comments, and my intention is to be interrupted. So go for it. The goal here is not actually to get a whole lot of design work done. It's to have fun doing it. So we don't have to be super efficient, shall we say. Okay. Let me see if I can make this work. Ooh, I can do it. I'm figuring out now this thing where I can set up the next screen before I make it go live. It's pretty cool. All right, let's get this thing set up properly. Okay. All right. So last time it wasn't last time. One of these Ramble streams, we worked on a project designing a new and updated fuel-air mixture screw for a carburetor for California ARB certification. So this year, starting last year, about this time, we recertified our 250 model line for EPA and California ARB. We didn't have to do it. However, it's a really good idea to be preemptive about that and go to the authorities and say, look, hey, we've preemptively done this test and we meet all your regulations. We'd like to re-up. And it wasn't like we were out of time. There isn't really no official time frame for how long it goes out, but it's 5 years. It's been 5 years since we did our initial EPA test, and we decided it was about time to do that. And then the benefit of preemptively doing it is you don't have to go through the full test. You can just do a short version of it and show that it still meets the same specs. So we did that. However, California has updated, fancy that. California has updated their requirements, and we did not pass. Well, either that or the testing person was more strict, one or the other. But we did not pass the tamper-proofing of our carburetor. So I'll just show you here. Let's actually go ahead and make this here. No, this will work actually like this. Let's see if you can see it here. This is a carburetor, a 250 Halcyon carburetor. So the air goes in here and the fuel air mixture goes out here. Is that right? Other way around. Sorry. Goes in here, fuel air mixture comes out here. At the front of the carburetor, right here, is a little screw, and that is your fuel air mixture. And that controls the the ratio of fuel to air at idle. And that is the one part that is not, there is no jet for it. It is always adjustable because it may be a little different. That's the most sensitive area in a bike. And so it has to be adjustable per each motorcycle. Once you get onto the Pilot and the main jet, it can just run off of the specified setting. However, this has to be adjustable. And what we do, typically these are going to be, let's see if I can show you. They have let's see if I can actually zoom in here, get this thing to, there you go. It's got a flathead attachment. And so all you need is a flathead screwdriver, and you go up underneath this thing and you adjust it. However, the state of California controls, it's only California that controls that has to be tamper-proofed. And so what we do is we machine this off, and we then drill 2 tiny little holes in the top, which you're not even going to be able to see here. I'll show you a print. And we have this special tool that we make. If you can see that. And it has these 2 little prongs. And they're not the same as anything you can buy in the store. And it allows you to adjust it only if you have the special tool. So it tamper-proofs it. And that's worked really well for about 5 years. However, when we went back to the EPA, they decided that the actual regulation is that if they can modify it in a total of 5 hours, they're given 5 hours to be able to modify it with basic tools, which apparently means anything you can buy at Harbor Freight, I guess, because they were able, with a set of picks, to adjust it. So it wasn't good enough. So we decided that we needed to seal it closed. And the idea of just pouring epoxy in there just really doesn't appeal to me, because it would really be nice if you could not just ruin the carburetor and permanently set it. But I'll show you an example here of, this is a California compliant carburetor here. And unfortunately, if you live in California, this is the way it has to be. It's not my doing. But even the float bowl has to be tamper-proofed. And so these are a special screw you can buy. And on a normal carburetor, those are just going to be Allen, like this button, this one right here. It's an Allen, or sorry, not Allen, it's a Phillips head, screw head. You just loosen it up. You can clean your float bowl out. You can drain it, whatever. Put a new jet in. That's what they don't want you doing, though, in California, is putting a new jet in. And so we use something called a break-off screw. And so you just screw it in, and then it breaks off, and then you can't do anything with it. But you're not epoxying something or otherwise. I can't say that there are ways that this could be removed and normal screws put back in again, let's just say. But anyway, we decided that we had to do the same thing with the 250. Let's go back to the full screen here. With the 250, with the fuel air mixture screw, because it is threaded. So we could just put a little cap on top of it, and that would allow us to seal it off once we'd adjusted it, if that makes sense. Have any questions? Post them up. I'm going to look at the comments real quick here. Michael says, splitting a glob of Quicksilver in the palm of your hand. I've done that about 60 years ago. It's frowned upon these days. I know, I was going to say the same thing. Probably not. OSHA wouldn't approve. Foxy says, Kino's Journey is a wonderful novel and an even better anime. That's right. I know you're into anime, and I take your recommendation on Kino's Journey, both of you. Steve says, I have a photo of my maternal great-grandmother side saddle on a silent gray fellow. Wow. Fantastic. That's cool. Sirius says, Kino's Journey is indeed excellent. Okay, we got 3 recommendations now. Carl Lincoln, another owner, where is my center stand? Could it be? Underneath the bike or with the axle it needs one so badly? You see? Yes, I hear you loud and clear, and it is being worked on. Confed says, Steve Kroll, that's awesome. I have yet to see pictures of my family riding, but my mother has told me stories of it, and I enjoy seeing those bikes run at Wheels Through Time. Yes, indeed. I just got my tickets for the raffle from Wheels Through Time. It's my tradition, I buy the $20 ticket for the Wheels Through Time raffle. This year it's a 37 knucklehead that you can win. And the money goes to support the museum. It's a really cool thing. So if you haven't, I don't know if it's still time yet, but buy yourself a ticket to the Wheels Through Time Museum raffle. Carson says, looks like an inner tube valve stem tool. It does. Yes, you're right. But an inner tube stem tool will not work on it. Boys Barn, better late than never. Took 720 out. Forgot about the ramble. Nice. Glad you're here. And fresh off a ride, even better. Steve says, and there are going to be so many halcyons in California that it will make a difference. Yeah, right. And they burn really clean, by the way. I really have to tell you, we actually passed emissions without a cat. That's how clean they burn. So they're not polluting. Confetti Yank says, it's sold as not easy to tamper with. You met all standards. Order replacement carb. Yeah, right. We do have to ask where you're ordering it from. Carson says, thanks to the carb, we have to live with crappy gas cans. Yep, it's true. M says, we have drills and machining skills here in California, and we're not afraid to use them. Well, you, sir, are on your own. All we are required to do is that we must supply the bike to be compliant with all regulations. And we do. We're very happy to do that. Sirius says, poetry and geeking out over screws. I have found my people. Well, welcome. We need to get started on the geeking out here. Confetti Yank says, I have yet bought my annual tickets. Yeah, get them. Keith Stella, hello, welcome. Kind of like the old days of carburetors on cars had the plastic cover over the adjustment screws. We would just crush the plastic cup with a pair of vice grips. Yep. Tom says, Wheels Through Time is nearby. Come visit. Yeah, absolutely. I would love to get out there. Same ditto from Confetti Yank. Charles Selman says, you are correct. Not afraid to use them. And Slicey71 says, I'm riding an air-cooled bike. What is the air-cooled witchcraft? What is this air oil cooled witchcraft? Oh, you're talking about the 450. Yeah, I know, right? Still air cooled. Essentially, just a little augmented. All right, let's dig in here. So, I hope everyone understands what I'm talking about. Basically, this little screw goes in and covers up. It's actually on this carburetor here. So if I show you, that's where you'd normally have an aperture right here. And that's where you could use this little tool, if you had it, to adjust. But they said it was not tamper-proof enough. And so we had to cover it. And so that actually is the break-off screw broken off. And you can see there's no way to get a purchase on that. So it is officially tamper-proofed, and it passed their testing. So it did pass. However, the way I designed it, which let's take a quick look at it here. Now we can start actually geeking out over the... So here is the screw. This is what we did. And if you want to, you can go back and I think we got all the way through it. I can't remember, but we did do a lot of work on it. But if you look at this, I made it with a little post in the middle, and I did have the presence of mind to put a fillet at the top. And that my goal with that was to make that stronger so that it would break here. And somebody on the chat during that said you should make it. It may not break right where you want it to, because I don't want a sharp end coming off of it. I want it to just break clean. So after actually on this carburetor, we had to file it off just to make it a clean cut. So my goal with this Rev B, this is Rev A. You can see up here. This would be the full Rev A. Let it load for a second there. There it is. That's what it looks like in brass with its threading. And by the way, the reason we had to make our own is that they don't make a breakaway screw with this thread pitch. It's a very unusual. It's the same thread that the fuel air mixture screw is tapped for. So that's why we had to make our own. Like so many parts on the 250 carburetor, we make our own of just lots and lots of parts. And one of these days I should do a whole Ramblestream on just taking apart a Janus carburetor and showing you all the parts we make. That's a good idea. Maybe next week. Except I'll be out of town. But anyway, here's the print showing you how it's made, and this is all the information that the machinist will need in order to make this for us. So we're actually we decided that we wanted to update this in a way that would make it break away cleaner. It has no effect on the emissions or the tamper proofing, it just makes it, actually it's going to make it easier to machine, and it will make it break away, I hope, cleaner without a post being left. So let's go ahead and dig right in. I should also mention that we had to shorten the fuel air mixture screw. If you want to see, here's the actual fuel air mixture screw. And that part of this update was shortening this and making the new, but there you see the screw. It sits down at the bottom of this threaded opening, and they're the snake eyes, as we call them, that little tool fits into. So there's the whole deal. Let's go ahead and update this real quick here. All right, so the way we're going to do that, this is, by the way, if you haven't been on a Ramblestream where we actually do design, it's been a while since I've done one. Shake it all. We use a program called Onshape. Onshape is a browser-based design tool, CAD program, very similar to SolidWorks. SolidWorks would be the kind of industry standard, best known software, but this came at, it was the reason I liked it initially was it was so much less expensive, and it had some neat qualities to it. Primarily the fact that anyone can have a license and use it for free. The only difference is really you don't have access to saving your parts privately or any of the release management tools that we use. But you can any one of you all can get online and sign up for an account and be using all the design features of this program. And it's kind of amazing. So anyway, I've done other Ramble streams talking more in depth about this software. So go back and look at those if you want more info. But we're going to use this program. So we're going to go to the main version. So real quick there, this over here on the far left of the screen are all the revisions we've gone through. So there's a Rev A, and then we're going to be working on what will become Rev B. So here is this is Rev B, and I'm going to make an update. So to do that, we go in and there's a sketch. So this is 3D, right? You can see it's rotating around, but it's still, you still construct this in 2D sketches because that's how I think it's because that's how the human mind works best. As a hand drafting someone who's trained in hand drafting and drawing, it's kind of rewarding to realize that we still have to use sketches. So we're going to go into over here. This is the feature list over here of all the different operations. And number one, because I'd start there, is the sketch. So we're going to open that up and take a peek here. So this is the sketch that's used to construct this whole thing. So if you can imagine, this sketch this is the center line of the screw. And so rather than bothering to create the whole thing, I've just done half of it, and then I rotate this using the rotate, which would be or revolve, the next one over here. Let me move this over so you can actually see there we go. The revolve tool, and let's just go ahead and do that real quick here. I can roll back to the revolve. So you can see here's the sketch here, and then you revolve that and it turns into the full piece. And then we're going to add the other parts. So for example, threading, there's the threading. You don't have to physically add threading like this. I just find for some small pieces it's nice to have it visually represented on the print. Typically in a design print, you could just call out, hey, I want this threading, and show a blank, something that would look look just like that, and you just call it what kind of threading it is. But I've got the capability, and it's kind of nice. So then we do another plane, and this is all used for constructing the slot. So here's the sketch. So I don't know if you can see this, but this is another sketch in front of it with the slot cut in it, and then I do an extrude command, and that cuts the slot for the flathead screwdriver. And the last function is adding the little fillet So you can see I'll roll back, it isn't there, add a fillet. So that's how I got there. So in order to update this, rather than just adding more features on, I'm going to go back and update it from the original sketch, which is one of the beautiful things about designing like this. So we'll just go back into the sketch here. And what I think we're going to do, the problem is that it doesn't know where to break, right? It could break anywhere along this because it's all the same thickness. And I didn't explain, but basically it breaks by you screw this in and then you just keep twisting. You over torque it and that it'll break at the thinnest spot, leaving this, in this case, a little bit of that post because it could break anywhere along that length. So the logical solution to this is to not have it be a post at all, but a single point where you can control the break. So what that also will allow us is probably for this to be easier to machine because they can just use a pointed, I don't know the terminology, but a cutting tool that's got a point to it and just go one pass and it'll be a little groove. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm just going to go ahead and delete some lines here. So now it doesn't know what, it's not contained. All the lines that are black are lines that are constrained. So they've been defined by a measurement. Because I've deleted some parts here, now parts of it are no longer constrained. So we can go in and let's just make sure that this, well, actually, no, we're gonna make a line. And basically what I want to do is make a little pointed groove like this. Does that make sense? I'm not going to connect it to that dot because I want this to actually be a specific degree. And why not? Let's just make this 35 like the other one. So it'll be a total of a 70-degree little groove. Might be that 60 would be better. I don't know what the common tools are. But this probably will go through another revision where we'll catch that. This is a great time for us we're going to send this revision to the machinist and see what he says. And we got plenty more letters in the alphabet to go through. So now I'm going to trim the little, I'm using the keyboard commands here, but M in this case for trim. And you can see that it's not quite lined up. It's unconstrained there. But I kind of like using 1/8 of an inch there. So let's just go ahead and constrain it, and it's going to make it a little bit taller. And constraining it in this case by using the coincident command, click, and there it is. See that? So now let's just go ahead and check the overall dimension and see if we've got something weird. Because it'd be better if it wasn't a weird. It's a little off. Yeah. I think it's okay. So there you have the sketch of what this will look like. And then we know where this is going to break. It's going to break right here at the thinnest point. And let's go ahead and we're going to hit the green check. That's going, and basically everything's going to happen to it now. It's going to completely be basically ready to go at this point because I haven't updated. I'm doing this at the root of the sketch, and I'm doing it in such a way that it's not going to break the rest of the model. Sometimes it's impossible to do that, but in this case, I think when I hit this green sketch, it's basically all my work is done. Boom, there you go. So there's the new version. I've got a bunch of planes turned on, so we'll turn those off. We'll turn, the one thing that we don't need anymore, if you can see over here, there's a fillet, and it's red, missing edge. That's because there is nowhere for it to go. So that little fillet, remember, was on the flat bottom of the screw head. So we're just going to delete that because we don't need it anymore. And we're going to turn off our sketch. And there it is, ready to go. And looking pretty good. Let's look at some comments real quick here. Garrett Smith says, I love your bike so much. Well, thank you, Garrett. Appreciate that. Confed Yank says, here I'm looking at making it even easier on carbs I use. Yep. DJ says, are you able to sell your bikes in Canada yet? Not yet, but it is on the top of our list. We are working hard on that. Michael says, the tiniest variation in the diameter of that post would probably make a big difference in the torque you can apply. Yes, that is absolutely true. I kind of took a guess at what it should be. I did base it off of some other breakaway screws, so I wasn't shooting completely in the dark. However, the material that the other screws are made out of, I believe, is aluminum. Yeah, I think it's aluminum. So I made it a little thinner because this is brass and it's going to break a little bit. It's going to be a little harder to break it than the aluminum. Did I finish my thought on that? Yes, but I just figured going this way, it's going to be easier to machine rather than having to worry about that little flat spot at the bottom, the post part. They can just cut it. I do wonder about if 70 is a good angle, though. I'll have to think about that. Tom says, create a tiny groove. Exactly. Carson says, groovy. Carson says, 60 degrees is a standard machine angle. Yeah, you're right. It is. Might be better for me to do that. Maybe I will. Fearless Starlight Band. Welcome. He says, when are you going to make a 650, a safer bike? I don't know what you mean by that. Why 650 is any safer than 450 or 250? I imagine the point you're making is that you can go faster, and like people always make the claim that they want to get out of the way of cars, and that's not why I ride. But to answer your question, no plans at the moment to make a 650. 650s are great. You can make a 650 single. I ride one for quite a lot, and so that would be fun. But right now, we really like the size of the 450, 90 miles an hour. Does exactly. We kind of tried to pick a size that would be right in the middle of lightweight, rambling motorcycle. Tom says, so once set, you just knock the head off. Seems you over torque it, you'll be changing the setting. Oh, great question. But it's a two-piece. So yeah, you set. Good question, Tom. What happens is you, let me go to the big screen here just so you can see. This part right here is the actual screw. Okay? This little cap thing goes on top of this and covers this up. It actually, we sized it. The reason it has let me go back to the other screen. The reason it has such a shallow thread here is because I didn't want it to ever come in contact with the head of this. So you set the fuel air mixture screw, and then this thing is tightened down. It doesn't matter how tight it is. It won't make contact with the top of this, and it will not throw off your fuel air mixture screw. Great question, though. That was something I was really worried about, is even if it were to push on it, it could, the fuel air mixture is very, very sensitive. An eighth of a turn makes a big difference. So it's just a cap that covers up the hole so that you can't put the tool in. There you go. It's kind of the things we do to ourselves to make things more complicated. Tom says, Carson is correct. 60 degrees is a very common 3-point cutter. Okay, guys, let's change it. We got time. Thank you all. This is why we do the Ramblestream, right? We're going to change this to 60 degrees. But we got to make sure that it stays 0.03 inches because that's the right width that we've established. It breaks right about the right amount of force breaks it. So let's see. How am I going to do this? Let's just make the change and see what happens. So this will be 30. There we go. And this will be 30. There you have it. So we have reduced the overall height of the part. We could change that. We can make it longer if we wanted to. We can make the screw head higher. I don't think there's any need to do that. So we won't. So all I got to do is, isn't that cool how quick you can do that? Hit the check button, and there you have it.
So there we go. 60 degrees. And that should be a good cutting tool as y'all. Tom, thank you. And Carson, thank you for that recommendation. There we have it. Tom says, I see it's a locking cap. Correct. Fearless says, don't get me wrong, I love the 450, but my personal experience is that 650s run smoother. I think you might be talking about a 650 twin, because 650 single is getting out there. They're not saying they don't run smoothly. I ride a KLR, and I have friends with DRs, and they're wonderful, but that's a pretty big piston moving up and down, and you do get some vibrations at that. So the lighter, that's why smaller bikes typically are more often singles, and why you never find, or very rarely find, a single that's larger than, what was the Dr. Big? You should look that up. The DR 750 or 700, I can't remember. The Dr. Big was the biggest, one of the largest single cylinder dual sports they ever made. Let's see. Carson says, I believe that with dynamic balancing, any single can be made smooth. Yeah, to some extent. But it's all within the realms of reality. I mean, it gets overly complex, let's just say. I'm not an expert on it, but it starts getting out of hand at about 650, 700. My KLR has actually been bored out to 700 cc, and it's relatively smooth, but it's a big thump. They're called thumpers for a reason, and they do make more sense at smaller displacement. The counterbalance doesn't have to be as heavy, all that stuff. But again, I'm not an expert in engine balancing or dynamics, but I do know that once you start getting up toward larger displacements, a twin or a triple or a 4 makes more and more sense, and even the perfectly balanced 6-cylinder. If you haven't seen it, it's not one of their best videos, but Fort9 did a video recently, this summer, I think, on the different engines and balancing, and he did a pretty good job explaining the benefits of each different kind of engine. Sirius Blatt says 800. Are you talking about, is that how big the Dr. Big was? If you know what I'm talking about. It was up there. It was definitely up there. Yeah, it might have been 800. That's big. Tom says Honda still makes a 650 dual sport. Yep, that uses original radial 4-valve head and engine that was the foundation of Halcyon 450 engine. Yeah, that's the XR 650. Big old, same engine, exactly the same engine that's in the 450. Great motor, even uses the radial 4-valve technology, and still being made. Steve says, I love a thumper, even though right now I'm an old 86 Interstate. I'm on an old 86 Interstate. Nice. Sirius says, I ride a RE Classic 500, and the vibes are where it's at. Heck yeah. That's right. There's nothing wrong with a thumper. Sirius says, yes, a DR 800. So that's the Dr. Big. 800 cc's. I've never even seen one, or much less ridden one, but I would love to, as a lover of single cylinders. So we have about 6 minutes, just enough time to update the print on this, and I hope actually release it. So here's the Rev A. It says watermarked in progress. We're going to update this, hit this little yellow button up here, and blammo, here we go. We don't need a radius because there's no fillet. We don't need that 30 because I think I'm just going to mark it 60. We're just going to do this. There we go. Let's make, for some reason, there's an extra 245. I don't know why that is. So you see we have ordinate dimensions here coming down from the head of the screw. I could do that from the base of the screw, but it's a pretty simple piece here. So we're just going to leave it like it is. Let's make sure everything's called out. The only thing I see that's not called out is the diameter there of that here, which is important. So let's go ahead and call that out. And there we have it. I'm going to move the leader of this to the threads just to be for clarity's sake. That thread doesn't come through very well in the print, but there it is. I think that's just about everything we need. It's called out pretty well. We'll label what's been updated. We're going to say all caps. Hold on here. See what I want to do here. Why don't we say modify, I gotta type around my microphone. Modified breakaway to 60, and we'll get the degree symbol. Angle. There we go. So this is the revision. This is just to the machinist explaining what's been updated so that they can quickly look at the print and know, and then we'll add a little revision call out just to be sure they know what's going on. I'm just going to do it right here next to the, there it is. So that shows them this is what's been updated here. There's no revision letter on here because I haven't revisioned it yet, but we're going to do that now. We're going to release rev B. Make sure everything else is good. Okay, here we have it. Select the rev B. Oh, there goes my phone binging. It means it's been released. And there we have it. There's the updated with the correct revision. And from there, we can export a PDF and send it to the vendor. So success. We've gotten all the way through that design, and it is not 8 o'clock yet. And we'll still have time, I hope, to wrap up here with our comments. So, Chris says, any word on the status of a 450 service stand? Could really use one. Yes, I know you can. We're working on a center stand that will help with that. We'll get that rear wheel up off the ground. And I think it'll be easier to use and faster than a service stand, which we've really had struggled. The exhaust being under the bike just makes it very difficult. But we need to get something out like that, and we have designs in the works. And like I've said, one of the things we're working on getting better at, and we're making big strides on, is coming out with updates faster. So this winter, while I know a lot of you, or certainly at least if you're here in the upper Midwest, while we won't be getting as much riding in, I really do hope that we're going to have a lot of fun announcements to make on updates and upgrades that we're coming out with for both the 450 and the 250. Some of them will be, I hope, launched quite soon here. Okay, let's wrap up. Robert Benstead says, hi, Richard. Bob Benstead from Sturgis, South Dakota. How's it going, Bob? Good to have you on. Hope to someday make it out to Sturgis. Love to do that. Tom says, good night, everyone. Fun. Good night, Tom. I'll see you, if not tomorrow night, then Wednesday morning. Scott says, brass hardness, important for braking strength. Good question. We just use the brass that we normally machine stuff from, which off the top of my head I don't have. And we're going to use the same thing, so we know this brakes at about the right torque. James, multifarious. Thanks, as always. Good to see you, multifarious. James Pohl says, the original lithium-ion battery on my 2018 Halcyon still starts her every time, but I'm thinking I will need to replace it soon. Should I stick with the same? I'm running the original, not even lithium ferrous. It's a glass mat, absorbed glass mat, AGM battery on 68, and I just run it a lot, and I think that's the benefit of it. I don't leave it sit, and it's just doing great. So I have no intention of replacing it until it won't start the bike. So I would hold on to it. If you felt like it, you could buy another battery as a standby, but we'll ship them to you fast enough. I just keep on using it until it kicks the dust on you. If you've got a 250, you can always kickstart it in the interim, right? Sirius says, what was the name of this software again? I use SolidWorks, but this looks neat. It doesn't have all the same features that SolidWorks does, but it's really catching up. It's actually the founders of Onshape is the program. So here, I'll show you the website here. No, it won't let me. Anyway, there it is. It's called Onshape up in the corner here. You can see it. It was founded by ex-SolidWorks founders. So it's quite a powerful tool. And they when we started using it, it definitely had some limitations, but now they can do native simulation, release management, all parts numbering, all kinds of stuff that we don't even use the majority of the function of the program, but we use it enough. It's really nice. It's really fit us as a small company. Let's see. Carson says, on the battery question, any thoughts on a capacitor pack in place of a lithium-ion battery? I guess you could. I haven't thought of it. We used to have old mopeds that had capacitors on them. That was kind of cool. Probably not for our application. Foxy says, for those who've never been to your bikes and coffee event, what is a normal event like? Great question. We get in, we have coffee, people bring in bikes. We like to welcome people with all kinds of motorcycles. If you don't have a Janus, bring it by, and we usually have some other models there. And it's just like if you've been to a Cars and Coffee, it's a time for people to park their bike, show it off, talk about it, drink some coffee, and socialize. It's just real informal, and we'll usually open the shop up. I'm not sure we have any more on the schedule this year as it's getting colder, but we'll open the shop and do tours and hang out. We will have some next year. Scott says, thanks again, Richard, for a great Ramblestream. I especially enjoyed the design details being a retired mechanical engineer. That's really wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm glad it meets your expectations because I'm not an engineer. Carson says, buenas noches. Buenas noches. Keith says, thank you. It was enjoyable for my first time. Again, thank you for everyone for being on. George says, a video on installing the chain stabilizer on the 450 Halcyon would be appreciated. Great. I will make a note of that right now. And Grant says, we're watching the rain through this Saturday. Oh, so maybe we do have a Cars and Coffee this week, or Bikes and Coffee. I don't know the schedule. I will be on my way out west, unfortunately. But if we are, we'd love everybody to come. And we've had some where it was raining and people showed up, and then it turned into a great day. Steve says, I'm not ready to buy, but the attitude I'm sensing already makes me want one. Being in southern Maine, our riding season is coming to this year's end. Well, you're not much different than here in northern Indiana. We have honestly, it's about the end of the riding season for most people, unless you push a little harder like me, or like me, live pretty close to work. So I can, as long as there's not salt on the ground or snow on the ground, I'll ride. Confed Yank says, I'll be happy to get some riding on a Janus this winter. Chris says, thanks for answering the service and stand questions. Hopefully it can be knocked down or taken down. Yes, it will be something that will be, I think you'll like it. So, all right, everyone. This has been wonderful. We are 3 minutes past 8. Thank you so much for joining, and I will catch you all not next week. I am going to be, possibly not the week after. I will be out on the West Coast, but I will. We will get back to this when I get back, and we'll try and do a better job posting it. So thanks again. Last comment here. Perry, Texas, checked my odometer today and have 6,000 miles on 884 and just over a year of ownership. Well done. Not bad at all. Only regret is not buying sooner. Great. Good night, Gary. See you all later. Thanks again, and I will catch you on the next Ramblestream.